match for a good blaster at your side.
Welcome to Hokey Religion, the Star Wars podcast. We have finally seen The Last Jedi. This is Tyler.
This is Michael.
Welcome to episode 61.
61.
So, The Last Jedi is a film that came out, and we saw it, so moving on.
That's it.
Nothing to talk about there.
End of the episode.
You know, just another one of those. 2 more years, or actually 5 months, we'll get another one.
5 months.
Yeah, that's messed up. Anyways, The Last Jedi was fantastic. I loved it.
Is there any business we have to take care of before we get into this? Because
There's no more.
I'm ready to talk about this.
No other important business. I'm sure we have way too much to say for one episode. Start off. Did you like it? Did you like it?
That's a hard question. Of course I liked it, but there's so much.
Yes. But it's
a complicated question.
It has been a very polarizing film, I think, at least in the fan base. People either loving it or like vehemently hating it.
Yeah.
And I've heard people like it better the second time. We've only seen it once a piece. But I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yes.
The end. Done.
Yes.
All right, guys.
All right. Look.
So what's up with C-3PO's right arm?
All right, look. It's oh my gosh. I was so this is one of probably the only Star Wars movie that has stuck with me. And I keep thinking like these little things will pop in my head like, oh my gosh, this was such a cool moment, or I'm really glad that this was in there, or like just little things like that. And like backstories and stuff just popping up and just thinking about how cool that was, or, you know, why was this character, you know, just little things like that.
Yeah.
It's been a couple days now and I'm still, these little things are still popping up.
Yeah. And I know I've tweeted it, tweeted things about it, but I think this was a very ballsy movie to make.
Yeah.
It was not safe. I think it took a lot of chances, which is why it's so polarizing and people either hate it or love it, because they did things with characters and ideas that we've all had assumptions about for a very long time, and did things with them that were probably not to our assumptions. They didn't just shit out a fan service movie.
Right.
Which would have been very easy to do and make a ton of money off of, and just make it like, here's a Star Wars movie and it's everything you like and here's all the things you wanted. Bleh.
Right. Just put stuff in there like that would have made fans happy, and not necessarily people that, I don't know, are just coming into this, or even just things that wouldn't add to the story or add to the overall like our character arcs and things like that, you know. It wouldn't he didn't throw stuff in there that you know wouldn't have added to the movie.
Yeah. So because there's just so much that, like you said, it's just, it was very much a passing of the torch. Like the Force Awakens was like an introducing of new characters, but all the old characters were still majorly involved for the most part.
Yeah.
And this one was very much about like telling us like, hey, that's done now. Here's the new Star Wars with the new characters.
Right.
And I guess before we get into that, if you've not seen the movie, we're about to talk about everything.
Yeah, this is going to be a major. This is not like a reaction podcast or anything. This is us getting into the details of everything.
We did, after seeing the movie, we recorded a spoiler-free reaction, like instant that night reaction. It's like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're going to play that for you right now. All right, so we just saw the Last Jedi.
You can't even remember the name.
Nope, my brain hurts.
My brain hurts too. Wow. There's a lot to process.
There's a lot to process.
All right, first of all, everything we predicted pretty much was wrong.
Pretty much, I would say so.
I mean, we did have a conversation earlier in the day before we saw it that ended up most of that being what happened, but everything we've said on these episodes so far, I mean, like, I'm talking major things, like major story points.
Major story points, yeah.
Were wrong.
Correct.
I felt like, I was saying this earlier, I felt like every time you knew what was going to happen and was like, okay, it's going to be like in Empire, or it's going to be like in Jedi,
this is
or
the
whatever.
way this thing's going to go, because that's the way movies work.
Right, or the way that we've seen happen in Star Wars before.
Yeah.
it wouldn't do that, and it would take a left turn and be something completely different.
Yes.
And that every single time, at least for me, every single time I thought I knew what was happening, it would take a left turn and be something completely different.
Yeah. It's it's very much a middle movie to a trilogy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff to unpack, and obviously there's no resolution to anything, really.
I mean, this was, in the way Force Awakens was like reintroducing us to Star Wars, and it was the beginning of something, and, you know, felt like Star Wars, all of that. This is very much a middle, develop the characters, take the story to a new place, and leave you there.
Throw everything in a blender, and then just pour it on our faces. And that's what happened.
Waterboard us with Star Wars is what this movie was.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, gosh, without I want to talk about everything in super detail, which we'll get to.
We will
eventually, but
yeah,
we'll leave this saying, please go see this movie.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it already, definitely see it. And I think, like Michael said in other episodes, like he assumed and was very right. I left the movie very conflicted, and I think most people probably will be. I love the movie, and I'm not angry at the movie, but there's just a lot going on that
the movie was exactly what it needed to be.
Yes.
It everything that was in it needed to happen, basically.
Yeah.
But man, it's hard to watch.
There's so much that needs to be explained externally before the next movie. For me.
All right, I'll ask you this. I haven't asked you this yet. Do you feel like it didn't explain enough just in the movie? Like, say you're just a normal person going into it. Do you think it didn't explain enough?
No.
You don't think so?
If you have not been a part of Star Wars and got back into it or got into it for the first time with Force Awakens, it follows the characters that it needs to follow and explains their story and continues from there to what's important to that story.
I say you could probably even drop in here. You might lose some of the nuance, but you might be able to just drop in here.
Enough is recapped, I would say.
Yeah.
But there's just so much new and so much going on that I hope there are a lot of books in the next 2 years that give me a lot more detail on some of the stuff.
So for normal people, maybe. I think there's a few things that really need to be explained, even just for normal people. Maybe that will send... You know what? I think it did a good job of piquing people's interest that maybe weren't interested in before.
Could be, yeah.
Like, oh, why is that like that? And blah, 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 whatever. Like, maybe it's building new fans. I could see it definitely doing that.
Oh, yeah.
For people who have been involved in this whole time, I want answers. As being one of those people
that have been super involved and trying to figure everything out. Yeah.
I need some answers for things, because
there were answers, but there were not all the answers.
And some of the answers weren't enough. I think.
Yeah.
I need answers for some of those things. Again, none of this means the movie was bad.
No.
I will say I wouldn't put it above Force Awakens. At least not yet.
This is like half an hour after we got out of the movie.
Right. I need to see it again, digest it, just decompress, because it was so much. But
yes.
Yeah, it's tough, I guess. That's the summary. It's controversial in a way.
Yeah. And the way the Force Awakens was the old characters returning and introducing the new characters. This movie was very much the new characters movie.
Yes.
Very much so.
It was a definite, passing the torch.
Yes,
movie.
100%.
Yeah.
So this is the non-spoiler portion of our discussions.
Oh, kind of. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Well, we will talk about it more after we figure out what the hell we just saw. Goodbye.
In a good way. Goodbye.
Okay. So that was the spoiler-free portion of our reaction. If you just want to listen to that and then go see the movie, come back later to
And keep
this
in
next
mind,
portion.
Keep in mind that was us at like, what was it, 1 a.m. or something.
1 a.m.
We had
in a car.
Yeah, we had just got out of the movie. We were just about to go home. Yeah, we tried to keep it as spoiler free as possible. So now
is the part where we talk about everything. And if you don't want to hear about everything, shut it off and return later after you do want to hear everything.
Right, because we are going to get into as much as we can. This is probably, I'm anticipating kind of a 2-part episode.
This is just going to be like the freak out about various things, and then we'll gather coherent things to discuss like in depth probably.
In future episodes. Yeah, that's probably true. Because we have only seen it once.
Yeah, I need to see it again to get more. I don't know. I need to see it again where I know it's safe to both breathe and blink, so that I can pay more attention to little things.
Right.
And just pick up on some other stuff. But yeah, so go away if you don't want to hear the next part. I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay, Luke's dead. Sorry.
Jeez. All right, we're getting right into it.
No, so where do you even start with the movie? There's so much in it. They had to just pack in stuff.
Okay, here's where I want to start, and this is starting like halfway to 3/4 in. Freaking Snoke. We still have no idea who this guy is, where he came from. Well, we know, I guess, because of like the visual dictionary came out a day or two ago.
So I mean, yeah, I guess we can kind of.
I want to start with
this conversation by, I guess, character, not by flow of the film.
That's fine. I want to start with Snoke. I don't care how.
That's fine. Yeah, because we had a lot of personal ideas and thoughts about Snoke.
So did everybody.
And so did everybody. But I don't think we ever discussed him dying.
No.
Once.
We didn't. No.
Because I assumed he was the bad guy, or there was something worse that was bad, and that's totally off base.
Yes. It was, yeah, it really was.
Kylo's the bad guy now.
Right.
That's the end.
So we were discussing it like the day before or something like that, or maybe it was the day of, like earlier in the day. Yeah. I can't remember when exactly, but that was when we had first talked about, well, wait a minute, maybe what if Snoke dies and Kylo takes over? Yeah. We had just never considered that.
Not really. Yeah.
Not on the podcast.
So, anyway. I mean, watching the movie and seeing where they took the characters, it makes sense that Snoke's backstory doesn't matter to the story they're wanting to tell.
Apparently not.
I mean, because we get it. Snoke seduced Kylo. Kylo's evil. He's been conflicted. We've got Rey. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to the story where Snoke came from for that story to be told. For us that care about it, certainly we want to know that story.
For the story of Kylo's possible redemption, and
they basically told us everything we needed to know for Kylo's confliction and and then his stuff with Rey and all of that.
Since we're focusing on that, Snoke's backstory doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah,
but
it's frustrating.
It was. I was not, like you said, I was not anticipating him just dying right there.
Yeah.
And the way he died too, I thought was
just like like Palpatine before him. It's that they get so arrogant and so focused on destroying or doing this one thing that then the person that they least expect strikes them down.
I guess so. Yeah,
because just like Palpatine, where he's like, "Do it," like focusing so hard on Vader, and the Vader's like, "Ah!" and throws him away.
He's focusing on Luke. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so, I guess, could you call that a twist? Because I wasn't. Yeah. I thought he would realize what was going on right next to him, but I guess Kylo is able to focus his mind.
Frictionless throne, so he didn't hear a lightsaber scraping beside him.
Kylo was able to focus his mind enough, I guess, to do that.
I guess, and Snoke not to see it because he was so focused on Rey being disposed of.
Right. So Snoke is dead.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen the visual dictionary, it does mention in there that if you notice in his throne room over to the right-hand side when it's looking at him, like from a wide shot, there's like these weird tall alien things in robes.
Yeah.
To the right.
Right.
Those are navigators, and it mentions they're aliens with like giant brains that can process hyperspace calculations.
Well, it said multi-dimensional.
Multi-dimensional.
which is
calculations,
insane.
which is nuts. But it mentions that the Imperials that were in the unknown regions would not have made it back without their help.
Yeah.
Including that Snoke is from the unknown regions.
Yes.
So that confirms at least what we were saying about that Snoke is definitely from the unknown regions.
Right.
He helped them to get back. He helped bring back the broken empire from out of the unknown regions to fold into the First Order.
Which I'm trying to figure out how that lines up with what we know in Thrawn about how
Thrawn
the Chiss
got the calculations for them to get out there.
Well, the Chiss supposedly had a route.
Yeah, he helped them. He helped them calculate the route, through their computers to get out there, and it had been calculating for years on those computers in the Emperor's various places around the world.
I thought the Chiss already had a route in and out of the unknown regions.
Well, because of the way like stars and different stuff like moves in space, like they knew the route, but they have to calculate those hyperspace jumps, I guess, to get through it safely.
Yeah.
So it was like taking years and years and years for those calculations to process and to give them the final route.
Okay.
But yeah, Thrawn helped them with that. So they got out there, and then we don't know what happened out there other than the fact that we now know Snoke and these navigators are from out there and helped them to come back.
Yeah.
So there's an entire story there of what happened while they were out there. Who did they meet? Where did Snoke come from? How was he involved? And how did he help them get back?
That alone is a story.
That alone, not even talking about Luke or Ben or anything, is its own story.
Is more kind of a story about the Empire remnants and what happened after the end of Aftermath.
I feel like that could have been just a line of him talking to Rey, explaining
that's what I thought too. Yeah.
This First Order would be nothing without me, saving them, helping them return from the unknown regions or something to throw as a bone of like, this is where I'm from. And then that's it.
Well, I was going to say, so that's its own story, but then there's this whole other story of how
that's the part that still pisses me off.
So there's this whole idea in the movie of Snoke playing Rey and Kylo off of each other through this like forced telepathy link.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. I really liked it.
That's a really cool idea.
I saw people on Twitter complaining about it, but fuck them. It was really cool because we've never seen anything like this before.
Again, not a safe choice. It's doing new, different things
with
the
new
Force
stuff,
than we have seen.
Right. Which again kind of backs up what we've heard that the Force it plays a major role in this movie, which it did. But anyway, this whole idea of them being linked, come to find out Snoke was the one creating that link.
Snoke's just causing conflict
to play Rey and Kylo off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was promising Rey, showing her visions of certain things of Kylo that she wanted to see, and then same thing with Kylo to Rey.
Yeah.
Like they were kind of being, tricked. But anyway, we've got this thing that apparently Snoke can do. I assume that's what he did for Ben initially. So I was saying
messing with his brain.
We've got this story of
causing conflict in him.
We've got this story of the First Order's origin in the unknown regions, and then this whole other story of how Snoke
seduced Ben,
which we still have no idea. And now he's dead, and he can't say anything about it.
So, but here's the other thing. Remember Snoke from wherever the hell he is, forced threw Hux to the ground and drug him around, and he's not even in that same area as him.
That was crazy. Yeah.
So he's strong enough for that.
Yeah.
So he's strong enough for obviously messing with Rey and Kylo from afar and doing that to Hux. And I don't know if he can do that from the unknown regions if he was still there at that point, seducing him unknown to anyone until after the fact.
Creating visions in his head and all kinds
so he's
of
like
stuff.
super, like he was just like flick his fingers and like lightning shot out of the ground and hit Rey type of thing.
Yeah.
And spinning the lightsaber back around to smack her in the head. Just like, obviously Rey still doesn't really know fully what she was doing at that point with the Force, even though she's strong. He's definitely stronger to be able to do that stuff from that distance.
Yeah.
So now I'm wondering if they know, because everyone's mentioned how Snoke has seduced Ben. I wonder if he was still in the unknown regions, and that answers the question that we were like, why didn't Luke know about him? Or if he was around, why didn't anyone realize he was a bad guy? I think that kind of answers the question that they now know that it was Snoke that did that. But at that point, they had no idea what was going on.
I disagree because Luke was saying when he was given the backstory of how Ben turned, which, by the way, I guess we'll get to that in a little bit. That was a really cool backstory. But when he was saying, wasn't he saying something about how Snoke had already begun twisting his mind.
Well, yeah, it's because he was looking into his mind, so he knows now that Snoke was twisting his mind.
After looking into Ben's mind, he
so.
figured that out.
I think so.
At that moment,
I still don't think he knew it was Snoke at that moment.
really?
I think everyone's now like, oh, so he's with Snoke. Snoke did this. We get it now. That's what happened.
So Luke,
I don't know if anyone knew Snoke existed or was doing any of that at the time. I'm wondering if he was doing that from afar because he's so strong.
So when Luke looked into Ben's mind, he
saw darkness. He saw
Snoke. Snoke's influence, basically, which is enough to scare anybody, I guess.
And I think so. My whole problem was, well, how did Luke never realize Snoke was around, or how was Snoke around without anybody realizing he was evil?
Yeah.
Like, how was he ever involved in being another Force user without anyone questioning why he was in existence? I wonder if no one knew he existed and he was just doing that all from afar. Well, and then he showed up and everyone's like, "Oh shit, that's what happened."
I guess you could say,
which again, that's a whole nother story.
I guess you could say on Luke's end, the dark side clouds things.
Yeah.
So maybe Snoke was, I don't know, using Luke's hubris.
I guess.
Like using his pride against him and just kind of blinding Luke in a way, in the same way that the Jedi were kind of blinded to Palpatine.
Correct.
But I don't know, you'd think eventually somebody would pick up on the fact that there's this crazy powerful dark side Force user out there.
But I wonder if they just didn't know he existed until he just showed up, and then
I guess
Kylo had already run away
at
that point?
Showed up with the First Order, you mean? Like at that point, like as soon as he showed up, that was when the First Order kind of rose. And
what we don't we don't need to know, but it would be nice to know if when that moment with Kylo and Ben, where Luke almost killed Ben, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah,
where Luke almost killed Ben, and Ben freaked out, and then just like wrecked shit up because he can't control his emotions because he's a tiny baby man. At that point, where did Kylo go? Did he go find Snoke, or did he start his Knights of Ren and then find Snoke? Like, at what point were they joined up?
I think as soon as he burnt the temple and ran off with the students, I think he went to Snoke.
Could be, and
because Snoke knew that was happening. He had to have.
You know. And then Kylo took a handful of Luke's students, he says, which
Snoke is like the Wicked Witch from Wizard of Oz. He's just like watching everybody.
Basically, yeah. Just yelling at everyone. And
he's got his magnifying glass, spying on people from his
space magnifying glass because his window's not big enough. So there's the story of how Snoke ever got involved with anyone in general, with the Empire, and then there's the story of how exactly what happened with him and Ben beforehand, and then after him burning down the temple.
That whole story.
There's a story there of like the apprenticeship, I guess.
Yeah. And you've been saying on Twitter, we look forward to seeing that stuff in books and comics and whatever.
I mean, all those stories, I would love a 6-hour Star Wars movie that explained every single piece of this, but they have to, when you make a movie, you have to follow the through line. Yeah. Like, you have a plot. This is the plot. And yes, I know there's a lot of extraneous stuff that really you want to know, but that doesn't matter for this thing to happen.
So I think
who the Knights of Ren are did not matter, but with Rey and Kylo like having some weird Force connection. Like, that they don't matter to this story. They're a cool story and we'll tell you that story, but it doesn't matter right now. Yeah.
I think the thing we have to accept is this new Star Wars is going to be these big saga movies that have a single story and an arc that's followed, and then you have the what do you call them, the anthology movies that fill in gaps of stories here and there of major characters, and then all of this extra stuff that people are wanting from the movies is going to be in other media.
And just to get off topic, what is it now that people complain so much about not getting those little ancillary information, where in the original trilogy, nothing was explained outside of just like, welcome to Star Wars, here's the thing that's happening. Like, and then we got all this other story from the EU.
Right.
And then there was the prequel trilogy, which, was going back on characters we already knew. So I guess there wasn't too much extraneous stuff we had to know. But like, now everyone's like, tell me everything because you have to.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not sure. I don't know why.
Goddamn millennials getting fed on a golden plate. I don't know where my old man rant was going. But I don't know what it is so much that people get so pissed off that they're not told everything now when that's how it has always worked with Star Wars.
Yeah.
We got movies and then we got a shit ton of books that explained everything outside of the story they were telling in the movie.
Yeah.
So guess what? We're probably going to get a shit ton of books explaining everything around The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi.
The one thing, and I guess this is kind of the same complaint that other people are having. The one thing I've noticed, especially in this one, I picked up a little bit, was these movies aren't like they're aimed at a new audience, obviously, or getting a new audience. There were a lot of things, like little lines, the way they said lines in this movie, where it was like kind of simplified things a little bit. Like where, for example, Finn, when they were talking about, the resistance ship jumping somewhere else, they kept saying like, we can jump to light speed. Let's jump to light speed. And, do you remember that? Like they kept, the point being,
everyone being like, let's just jump to light speed. And
right. Like
everyone else was, then Holdo was like, no.
But it was like,
no.
Like overly simplifying things
light
in a way.
Speed. like trying to tell us that light speed exists. I mean, it's a thing that's existed. I didn't feel that. It was a little,
I don't know, it just felt a little simplified. Like it was purposely being aimed at getting people that aren't really familiar with Star Wars and the intricacies of Star Wars. And like the thing with Poe, this was something that bothered me earlier on when Poe was attacking the dreadnought, when the dreadnought showed up.
When he kept calling hugs.
That was pretty great. Waiting for General Hugs.
Still holding.
When he was attacking the dreadnought and shooting all those, like the top cannons.
Yeah.
Like, why wasn't the dreadnought shielded? Why was he able to just destroy?
You were complaining about this before, not on the show, and I think that's a pretty well-known like starship in sci-fi movie thing where there's a shield that protects it from outside fire, but if a small ship gets within that shield, which they can just fly within their shield, they can do whatever they want in there, and the ships, obviously those cannons were firing at him, but the shield doesn't stop ships from entering. It stops energy, like blasts, the lasers. I guess
so.
Because Kylo did the same thing to the Resistance ship, to the Raddus. He flew in,
but those
to the
are
shield
physical,
and launched a missile inside
That was a
of
physical weapon, though. That's not a laser weapon. It's not an energy weapon. That was what bothered me.
He still flew within the shield. I don't know. To me, that didn't matter because I think in all sci-fi movies, like when somebody shoots at a spaceship, like the shield's like a bubble around it instead of being like a skin-tight space cat suit.
Well, yeah, it's all about how the shield is projected around the ship. I didn't
always
think
in a bubble, which is not helpful, obviously, in this instance.
I guess you could say that.
But I mean, even in like Star Trek, the shield's always a bubble around the ship. It's never like on it.
It just seemed overly simplified for.
I don't know.
It wasn't as technical as I wanted it to be. That's all.
They weren't that. I don't think they were that heavy-handed. We're like, Poe didn't run up and be like, "Oh no, Finn, you're back to suit, which has healed you back to being healthy now."
No, it's not.
It's leaking everywhere. The back to fluid that healed you.
Well, the thing with the light speed thing, that only bothered me because why would these characters be talking about light speed? That wouldn't there be some kind of lingo or
like just jump or something like that?
Yeah, it's a thing that everybody knows.
Why can't we just jump away?
Right. Why did they have to say let's jump to light speed? Like we know what jumping means. Like why do you have to?
I guess I didn't feel that way.
I don't know. Anyway, I don't remember why I got onto that, but it just felt.
Use your trademark light speed, Captain.
Right. Anyway, what were we talking about? I don't remember how we got onto that.
I don't know. So what we talked? I think Snoke. That's the thing with Snoke. There. I will bet tons of money that there will be stories that tell us everything about Snoke.
Yeah.
That's inevitable. I think.
Oh, that's right. I got onto that by saying that these movies aren't necessarily going to be explaining every little detail. Right.
And even like there's stuff in this that frustrate me in this movie, but I get and I understand, and Star Wars is evolving beyond what, quote, my Star Wars was as a child.
Yeah.
They're trying to make it a new Star Wars for a new audience, and even the prequels. Like, I enjoyed the prequels when I saw them, but they were definitely still focusing on a younger audience. At the time when they came out, they were focusing on the people that were kids at that time. because they are technically all of Star Wars is kids movies. I mean, they are.
I think that was different. I don't know if you can compare.
This one is definitely darker than any of the prequels were, except for Episode 3, I would say.
Well, there's an actual story that we care about,
and there's a story, and there's no trade disputes. But I mean, even with the silly,
I know what you mean.
Even with the silly jokes, like it's still a kids movie. It really is still like a movie for a tween, like something 10 to 16. Like that's Star Wars core focus.
Yeah.
And people were complaining like, "Oh, it was too silly. There were too many jokes." If you look back at Jabba's palace, they were torturing droids by burning their feet, because I don't believe they have feeling sensors on their metal on the outside, on their toes.
They would have to, right?
I don't know. So I mean, they were torturing droids, and there was Salacious Crumb, who was just the stupidest, like the whole time, and like there were stupid jokes, and Han saying like, "Oh, we're all fine here. How are you?" Just the same way Poe is like, "Oh, hugs. I'm holding for hugs." Like
3PO bursting in on Han and Leia kissing, like stuff like that. Like
there have always been stupid, silly jokes because it is supposed to be for a younger audience intrinsically, but obviously they did a lot more story-wise that fed everyone's appetite, I think. Well, but I love that there are silly things in Star Wars because I think that's what it should be. I don't want them to adultify my Star Wars and make it a super serious movie, because then it's not Star Wars anymore.
Yeah.
I like it to be hokey in some fashion.
You could I see what you did there.
Oh. Just like in Force Awakens, I love that the practical effects, there are shitty puppets that are wonky when they move and are kind of jumbly.
Yeah.
Because that's how Star Wars is supposed to feel.
Which happened again in this movie.
In this movie, there was Yoda, which, holy crap, that was amazing.
That was so good.
Who was like OG Empire Strikes Back puppet.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know if that was
crazily.
I want to know if they made a new puppet or if that is seriously like an original, like one of the original handful of puppets they used. I wonder if they made a new one.
Incredibly good CG.
I don't know. The way he was stomping his feet and like laughing.
Yeah,
he was like doing like a with
yeah.
his feet jumping back and forth. Like that was definitely like puppetry. Frank Oz puppets, I think.
I love that he wasn't the Clone Wars prequel Yoda. Yeah. He was like the crazy old man.
He was still the crazy old man, and
that was so good.
And it looked so, compared to everything else in the movie, it looked so dumpy and like hokey and
it did.
And janky. And I love it because that is the last time I saw Yoda alive. That is what he looked like.
Yeah,
that's how Yoda. Don't turn him into don't put Hayden Christensen in the Force Ghost, because that's not what he looked like at the,
Yeah.
That's what Yoda looked like when he died. So why would he look any different than then?
Right.
Make him a shitty dumpy puppet.
So there's stuff, awesome. There's stuff very clearly aimed at new audiences, like Porgs. And then there's stuff like this where it's callback. So it's like a really good mix of,
I thought so.
And like you were saying with the humor, they're legit jokes. Like it was really funny.
And it's not just all, there were some stupid jokes, but there were also stupid jokes in the original movies. I mean, there are some good jokes, which, but we had that in Force Awakens too, with Poe at the very beginning, like making fun of Kylo Ren. He's like, should I talk? You talk. I can't hear you with the apparatus. Like there were already jokes. What are you complaining about now?
I like this trend where it's like Poe opens up the movie with a joke.
Basically, yeah.
Pretty funny.
He's got the cold opener.
Yeah.
He has to pump up the audience before the show.
It was pretty good.
Anyway, that was my these movies are not your childhood movies. They're someone else's childhood movies.
Right. And
which I love because I have a kid now and he loves these movies.
Yeah.
And I can show him the other stuff and he'll like them too because they were always for that age group that he's in.
Right. And not to mention, like I said, they're still balancing things. Like the prequels were just their own terrible thing. Like you're saying, yes, they're aimed at a younger audience.
And when I was young, when they came out, I liked them. Now that I'm an adult and I go back and watch them, I'm like, this is kind of stupid.
I was gonna say,
and I don't think I can do that with these films because they actually have a story that is good.
Yes. Whereas the prequels, what I was gonna say was they were aimed at a younger audience, but George was like, screw all these fans that have been with me all these years.
These are just for kids.
Right.
Basically.
Or whatever he was thinking at the
like, here's the simple story with the simple characters and the hee ha ha's and the fart jokes.
Right. Whereas this is more of a balance, which is, I don't know. It was just made well.
My weird old man rant in the middle there.
So let's talk about Luke now and the backstory between him and Ben a little bit.
Okay.
So
he had a temple. We know that.
Yes.
We knew that already.
Yeah.
And he had more than one student because he had a temple. He had
he said a dozen or so.
Like a dozen
I think he said
students.
That was really exciting to hear that it wasn't just Ben.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
apparently the temple was a secret.
It was somewhere that no one else knew for some reason.
Yeah.
And that's, again, why was it secret? Was it because Snoke was already around, or was there some other anti-Jedi?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
a good question.
Another thing with what's going on.
I mean, we know that Leia knew Luke was taking Ben somewhere, but she didn't know what was going on.
In the Bloodline book, Luke and Ben were off somewhere. Off looking for Jedi relics, right? Or did she just know they were off? Did she know they were at his temple?
I don't think she knew that there was a temple. That's what I was saying. Like she knew that he was training Ben in some way.
Somewhere.
But it sounded like she didn't know there was a temple.
Because we also know Luke was off looking for relics. So I wonder at what point was he looking for relics and at what point he had a temple?
Yeah.
Or was it like a part-time?
I think he was looking for relics and artifacts before he took on the temple.
Like he got the books and all that, and then he was able to train people because he knew more.
I think so.
Probably.
That's what I'm guessing anyway.
So he's training Ben, and they all have shitty short haircuts that look bad, just like when Luke was young, because apparently that's the haircut you have to have when you're a Jedi, just like in the prequels.
But then a goatee
yeah.
with that.
Yeah. And so one night Ben's sleeping and Luke's just staring at him, reading his dreams.
Well, so Luke, in telling that story, and what I really loved was there was a Luke side to the story telling Rey, and then Rey goes and talks to Kylo, and he tells his side of the story.
Both, just like anything where there's two different people that see an event, you both have a completely different view of how a car wreck. Like, exactly. You hit me. No, you hit me. You're the asshole because you braked. You're the asshole because you didn't. Like,
right.
There's like two polar opposite views of how this thing actually happened.
Right. Two different views. There's each side was both somewhat right and wrong, and then the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, it was so real and relatable.
My biggest question there is, why was Luke just like creepy uncle, like feeling his dreams?
I was going to say, he was saying when Luke was telling his side of the story, he was saying he had felt a darkness in Ben and seen it come out through his training.
Okay.
So that night,
so that night I crept into his bedroom.
I think at
had
that
some
point,
shots of blue milk, and I started feeling him out.
Luke's obsession with milk in this movie is a little upsetting.
But now we have green milk.
They took it to a level that I was not expecting.
You never wanted to see the milk coming out of the teat?
No.
You just wanted to see the milk after the fact?
I don't know if I ever wanted to see the milk in the first place.
Wait, first we had bantha milk. Now we've got Dr. Seuss
quadruple teat milk.
Like Dr. Seuss, like Seussian teat milk. I don't even know what those things are. It was like a weird dumpy nude beach of these milk animals that Luke just like fromps on in and like jerks one out.
I don't know how this ended up.
Excuse me, you having a good day at the beach? I'm just going to take your milk. And then they're concerned that like Rey's even watching this event take place.
Don't look at me. Yeah, that was anyway.
Anyways, there's teats and milk.
Luke saw this darkness in Ben. I'm gonna keep going. Luke saw this darkness in Ben. I think that, I don't know, it was where, I don't know, if there's something that's bothering you and you're just thinking about it,
instead of talking to Ben, he crept into his bedroom and felt up his dreams.
He just had one of those nights where he was just like, I just got to see what's going on. I don't know.
What's he doing in there? But I mean, yeah, so he felt something dark was happening, and I guess just got so concerned that he overstepped his boundary. Instead of talking about it with him,
So, okay, I'm going to defend...
He went way too far with getting into his mind, which again, the dark side clouds things, and what he probably... Just like when Yoda was telling him, like when Luke was like, oh, my friends, they're, in Cloud City, I have to go save them. And he's like, well, you don't have the whole story, the dark side clouds things. And then he shows up and he gets trapped and he gets his hand cut off, and it's a whole situation. And
even in that was just... You can't predict the future, or you can't be sure of these like future visions. They're cloudy.
And for all we know, Snoke was making Luke see a dark future for Ben.
Yeah,
he could have force Luke to force Kylo, force Ben to be
He could have been manipulating Luke too. So I'll defend. I guess the biggest argument right now that people have is this kind of
doesn't feel like Luke.
Yeah,
that.
Which I do not agree with.
Like all. Luke always trusted the best. Look at our Twitter. I got in a fight.
Yes,
she's like Luke always thought the best of people and always thought the best and always didn't judge. And I'm like, have you ever grown up and gotten old and grumpy and distrusting of everything? And have you ever gone shopping and someone's pissed you off? Like, Luke didn't just like happily go looking for artifacts and not get in a fight or something happened to him. He didn't happily start teaching people and like teaching Jedi and not get concerned that he's doing the wrong thing. Yeah. He grew up just like we all should, except for some people that can't grow up because they're assholes and just have a childish way of thinking, like Kylo, where we all grow up and change, and Luke's not always just going to be a 20-year-old that's like, oh, the world is fantastic, I need power converters, and I love everybody. Like, that's not how growing up works.
Right.
I mean, have you existed in life? Like, you kind of just get more angry and distrustful of people as you get older. I think that's kind of a general thing that usually happens, is because you've seen so much darkness in the world that you're starting to just not trust anything anyways.
That's why I love this backstory, because it was so relatable. It was so real. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's
what happens.
He was left alone. All he has to go off of is some books, and I guess maybe I'm assuming that's not the first time he's seen Yoda since last time he saw Yoda.
No, it seemed like there was a relationship there.
On
Jedi, on Dagobah.
No. Well, yeah, I guess Dagobah, that's when he died.
Yeah.
Well, he saw him as a Force ghost after the Battle of Endor.
Yeah, he showed up for a little bit, yeah.
He just like waved at him across from the party. And then went back to yup-nubbing. So it seemed like he's like, oh, Master Yoda. Instead of like, holy shit, Yoda, it's been 40 years.
Right. He looks at his watch.
And he starts stomping his feet around doing a dance.
But I mean, Luke.
So it seems like they had been talking before. So I'm guessing Luke maybe had a little more help and training than just the books.
Yes.
I'm assuming. But even then, he probably still felt like he didn't know what he was doing, like we've discussed before, where he's like, I kind of need help from someone who like fully knows what they're doing instead of just going off of. But I don't know how much help he got from Obi-Wan and Yoda, because they both can be Force ghosts.
Right. And Qui-Gon. He was the first one.
Who needs that? That guy's an asshole. Yeah. Don't get me started on Qui-Gon. Dick. So he's got Obi-Wan and Yoda, and I'm guessing they probably helped him maybe a little more, but he's still, I don't know, just like you expect that of someone.
This was kind of dropped in his hands.
Yeah, and he's got this nephew, and he sees a darkness, and he probably gets overly concerned, and he's already protective of, because it's his nephew. Yeah. He's probably even more protective of him, so he's even more worried than just some other rando student he has.
Yeah.
And then he's like, gets into his dreams, which is overstamping boundaries, and then he's like, well, I guess I have to kill him, which, how did you get there? He's just instantly like, well, gotta end it. Nothing we can do. Sorry. And then, so he has his lightsaber, but then he has second thoughts, and then Ben wakes up, and he's like, holy shit, my uncle's trying to kill me, and then he, burns down his house.
And everything else.
Yeah. He kills most people and the entire house because his uncle looked like he was going to kill him. That's how you respond if you're Ben Solo, apparently, because he can't control his emotions to this day. As we see at, the battle on Crate, he still can't handle his emotions.
Well, if you think about it from, like you said, Luke has been around Ben, and he's seen this power in Ben for a very long time now, since Ben was born. Basically.
Yeah, I guess he just gets so worried because he's so powerful.
Well, yeah. So Luke sees this power. He knows this guy's super powerful. He said that he thought Ben was the chosen one. So he already had a super high expectation of Ben.
He's not a chosen one.
So you combine seeing all this raw power in Ben, high expectations of being the chosen one, and then just slowly seeing him as he grows up become more and more corrupted, more and more dark.
Yeah.
So you get to the point where your expectations have been completely shattered. Yeah. You're disappointed in this kid. You're seeing this growing darkness that is actually could be a threat to something beyond just your temple and your students. So that's how I could see him. And then, so that's even before reaching into his mind. Mm-hmm. He sees all this. So then he goes in that night, reaches into his mind, sees something worse.
Sees it getting even worse than he assumed.
Potentially sees maybe a future, maybe Snoke let him see a future that could have happened or whatever.
Which, just like with Cloud City, he saw a future that was probably what the Emperor or whoever wanted him to see, of this extra dark future.
Right. Yeah. And in some ways, because he went off and did that, Luke on Cloud City, he kind of realized some of that future that he saw. Like, he was a part of it.
He made it happen, yeah.
Yeah. So
it's that weird time travel thing of like,
right.
is the future going to happen whether you intervene or not, or does that future happen because you intervened?
Yeah.
It's that weird paradox thing.
So he reaches in, he sees all that darkness. I could totally understand his gut reaction being, "Oh my gosh, I got to end this now."
Oh, stab!
Yeah.
Ah! No.
So, but then he, like he said, he comes to his senses and is like, "What am I doing? I can't. This is my nephew, you know."
Yeah. If you look in the visual
but it was
dictionary, the like blurb I think on those old Jedi books, it mentions that Luke, after having like read them or whatever, realizing that the lightness and darkness is cyclical, that the battle between light and dark is never ending, and it is cyclical and always has been.
Yeah.
That there's a constant battle between light and darkness, and it's never going to stop. So I wonder if he was trying to, because if he had those books at that point, if he was just trying to stop it before the cycle started again.
Yeah.
If he was so worried that the cycle is starting again because of me or because of my nephew or whatever, and I need to cut it off at the head.
Right. That's true. So I
that's the balance in the Force. There's always light and dark.
Right. He talked about that later. Like I guess, after this was all done, he realized there's this tension that's supposed to be there. You need a dark for a light.
And he said exactly what we've been saying, how the Jedi were beyond themselves.
Oh, I was
so validating.
I looked over at you when he said that in the movie.
Yeah.
It was like, yes, this is what we've been saying this whole time.
It's so validating that he said that, the Jedi basically were like keeping the Force to themselves. They were, like we were saying, they were high and mighty, they were beyond themselves, and they were keeping the Force to themselves. And then what he said was that the Force, everyone has, like, the Force is for everyone, I think is what he said.
Yeah. I
don't have the exact line, and I can't look it up because the movie just came out. But basically said the Force is for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just for the Jedi.
Right.
And Rey was like, I have this thing inside me. He's like, well, everyone has it inside of them. Like, the Force is for everyone. It's not just for me or for the Jedi to hold on to and keep as our own.
Yes. Right.
Which is because the Jedi got that wrong. They were like, we're metachlorians, and
we have
only
this
you
right.
can have the Force because you have the most metachlorians, and the metachlorians are still a thing. And like we've said from other,
as far as we know,
legends from other stuff, is that the metachlorians, some people have more than others, which gives them a more aptitude to use the Force.
Yeah.
But anyone can tap into that and be more Force using, like Chirrut, who's blind and using some of the Force to help with his surroundings, but he's not a Jedi. He's not lifting things,
but he can still
he's not
feel
as apt to it, but he can use the Force and feel it and
be sensitive to it.
So anyone can, but some are able to be up to like Luke or Rey or Kylo level.
Right.
Or Broom Boy.
Which was cool. That was a really
I really like the way it's very, like, at the end it's like, remember, the Force is for everyone. And this little boy can use the Force, and he just does it, whimsically even.
Right.
And then the way he holds the broom, almost like it's a lightsaber from that backward shot. The way he's holding the broom is like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Of like the future.
This is the future.
Anyone,
it was very.
It could be anyone. Anyone can be the future. It doesn't have to be Luke or a Skywalker.
It was very meta too. Like this is the future of Star Wars, basically.
Yes.
Like it's such a great way to end.
Yeah. Anyone can be a Force user. Anyone can be a Jedi. It's not just about the Skywalker story anymore.
Right.
It's about, I don't know, inclusivity. No, it's just it could be anything. There's stories to tell that aren't just about the Skywalkers.
Right.
Which is where they're taking it. Obviously, Ben is still Skywalker blood, but
yeah.
But yeah, the validation of Luke saying, the Force is for everyone. It's not just for the Jedi. Why would you, why?
And how the Jedi got it wrong. Yeah.
And how the Jedi got it great.
Wrong. So yeah, I mean, yeah, he reaches into Ben's mind. He sees all this terrible stuff. He overreacts.
Mm-hmm.
Tries to pull himself back, but by then it's too late.
And then all Ben sees is that his uncle's trying to kill him.
Right. Did you notice how
he freaks out and then burns everything down and takes a handful of his students with him?
Yes.
Which I'm assuming then turn into the Knights of Ren.
Right.
That's my assumption.
So that will break a man. I mean, that's
seeing your uncle. Like, if you're already on the verge of like,
well, I'm talking from Luke's perspective.
Oh, from Luke's perspective, yeah. Like
Ben is just a whiny bitch. So
he realized how much that was his fault.
Yes.
And that's what he goes to an island. He cuts himself off from the Force.
Yeah.
Physically cuts himself off from the Force.
Answers our question about why couldn't Snoke find Luke. We were asking that.
Snoke couldn't find Luke. He didn't know Han died.
Yeah.
Until he reached
Right.
out with the Force, did he realize that Leia was, I guess, injured or even alive,
Out
I guess.
there. Yeah, right.
But he completely cut himself off because he realized like how much wrong he had done because he didn't know what he was doing or just didn't do the right thing and is afraid it's just going to happen again because he's involved, like we were saying.
Right.
And so he completely cuts himself off and he's broken because he screwed up so bad.
Yeah.
And then you've got Ben who realizes he's like already walking that line of light and dark. And then he sees his uncle, who's supposedly this good guy, trying to kill him. And he's like, well, screw this.
What the hell, bro?
Yeah. He destroys the building around them.
Did you notice?
Thinks Luke is dead, kills almost everyone, and burns the temple down and takes some buddies with him.
Yeah. Did you notice how when they were telling their different viewpoints, like when Luke was telling, or no, I think Kylo told his.
How Luke looked angry.
He looked
like
angry and more evil,
like violent and evil
in Kylo's version, but in Luke's version he looked normal.
In Luke's version, he looked like he was holding the lightsaber and then was like sad because he's like, I can't do this.
Right.
But in Kylo's version, in that same shot,
he was just
like,
angry about to slice it. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, because again, it's the same events but two totally different perspectives, just because of neither of them knew what the other was doing.
Right.
And so, Ben grabbed his blue lightsaber, and
so this argument of this isn't Luke anymore, I just don't agree with that. It's a lot. It goes a lot deeper than
it's just someone that's grown up and had life experiences,
right? Whereas, say, if you take the DC movies and talk about like Batman, for example, from Superman versus Batman or whatever that movie was called, I don't care.
Sure.
Like that's not Batman anymore. There's no deep storyline that explains why he's like this necessarily. I mean, there's the storyline of Superman coming in and wrecking everything up, and
I have to protect the city.
Bruce Wayne has been doing this for a while and whatever, but it doesn't explain why he's going around killing people and anyway,
basically killing people. Yeah,
he's just murdering tons of people constantly. He's got guns all over his junk,
junk guns. That's some protection.
Anyway, that's a whole other,
I think it completely
whole other thing.
I think it completely explains Luke's response, like you said, that he's grown up, he's had experiences, he's had bad experiences,
right, and
thus, there's more to the situation than just what you want to think,
right?
People, asshole on Twitter. So then you got Luke. He's on the island. He's cut off. Rey shows up. He doesn't want to be involved. He just chucks the lightsaber over his shoulder into the dirt and walks off, which I thought was great.
It's very dramatic.
Just like slams his door and goes to
It's a little extra, Luke.
Get off my lawn. And then it's not until R2 shows him that original video of Leia asking for help from Obi-Wan.
That was great.
And then Luke's like, fine, 3 lessons.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. I'll do something to help you. Because,
what did he say?
Because of Leia, basically.
What did he say to R2? Something like, man, that's a low blow, or something like that. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that's a low move or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And R2 just kind of gives him a side look.
Yeah.
Like, right. Yep.
I will say this was explained later by Luke saying that, or Rey realizing that Luke had cut himself off from the Force, but when he sees Chewie for the first time and he's like, wait, where's Han?
Yeah.
I was kind of like, well, why didn't you? Leia felt that. Why didn't you? But then, like I said, it explains it.
Rey explains it with
it kind of throws you.
I felt darkness and lightness, and there was me,
but nothing from you.
Yeah. You've cut yourself off. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So Luke finally starts somewhat helping her.
Kind of threw me off a little.
Somewhat helping her until he's like done with her, basically, and then she leaves to do her thing.
Well, he wasn't the third lesson. At that point, Rey had gone down to the...
She went down to that mirror.
Was that after the third lesson or before? I can't remember now.
Well, she stormed off and left because he blew up her bungalow because she was talking to Kylo.
Oh, that's right. Which he saw, which I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, it was setting up the Force projection.
Yeah.
They set up the Force projection being a possibility.
They
didn't know how they were force projecting, but someone else was force projecting them to each other.
I didn't even think about that. That was pretty crazy.
So he saw that and then blew up and got all pissed off, and then Rey left.
Yeah.
And then of course he redeems himself by helping them on Crate by just distracting the First Order long enough for them to get out.
Yeah. which is a really cool. That was a cool.
Which is
moment.
like a thing we've never seen before. Another thing with the Force is like they set it up through the connection between Kylo and Rey.
Yeah.
And then if you look back at the EU, because I remember hearing something about there being something with the, like that the Force projection in the EU, and
like
I looked it up.
Force doppelganger.
Yeah,
thing?
and then the Dark. I was not Dark Disciple. It was Dark Apprentice, Dark Rising, something. One of the EU books where Luke turned bad.
Yeah.
Where the Emperor actually turned Luke to the dark side. Luke was able to Force project himself to be in two places at once. So that was something Luke in the EU had actually done.
Interesting.
Which I'm wondering if that's where they pulled that from, or if this was just an idea they had separate from that. Yeah. I'm sure someone in the story group was like, Pablo was probably like, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. So Luke had done that before, and then Sith users had also done that, but it required like super darkness and rituals to do their Force projections. But it is a thing that happened in the EU. It's not something new that you can be like, oh, that never happens. That's not possible. Why would you do a thing? It's happened before. You're just an idiot.
Technically,
it happened once upon a time.
Right.
So it was possible. It is possible now. They're just adding that back into the lore.
I mean, if having this, even if it wasn't, even if it was brand new, if having this means, we still get that moment at the end where Luke is just like, it cuts back to him, and it's just like he is just one with the Force, and just this crazy.
And I figured I knew something was going on because it showed Kylo like squaring off to like rush him, and you saw Kylo's foot move and leave the red line on the ground.
Yeah.
Luke then moved, but there was no red line. But it was a shot from the front, whereas Kylo's was like kind of to the side, so you saw the back of his foot.
I didn't notice that.
You see Luke kind of move his feet, but there's no red on the ground by him.
Really?
I was like, wait, why? Wait a minute. And then it happened. I was like, yes.
Wow.
So Luke moved, and there was no red mark because he's not actually there.
There was a moment before Kylo rushed him, and it was obvious that his lightsaber went through Luke.
Yeah. But it was just so fast.
Where it was like glancing off of his shoulder or something, but nothing happened. And I was kind of like, wait, so didn't he just hit him?
Yeah. Yeah. So I saw Luke move, and I was like, wait, there's no.
That was interesting.
I wondered, I was like, is that an accident or like something's up? And then, it happened because they were running around, and Luke's like leaving no trace, but Kylo's like marking up the ground with brushing the salt around.
Right.
Which
that's
really
cool. I didn't
like details like that.
I didn't notice that.
So Luke does that, I guess, and it takes so much strength to do that
it just exhausts himself.
It exhausts him to the point that he dies, or does he decide he's done?
I think
like that's as much as I can do to help.
I think like with Yoda, he just got
Obi-Wan, where Obi-Wan's like, well, to save them, I have to fight Darth Vader.
True.
To let them get away, I have to help.
Because that's true.
But even then, he's like, I'm going to die anyways, so I give myself over.
He kind of let himself go before Vader sliced him.
Yeah, he basically, because when Jedi die, there's a body left over. They don't all disappear like on Geonosis. There's not just empty cloaks everywhere. They don't just absorb into the Force when they die. The bodies are left around.
Yeah.
But there's notably a few people to have done that, being Obi-Wan and Yoda. Obi-Wan like realizing he's saving them, realizing he's going to die, and giving himself over to the Force. Yeah. And then Yoda is dying, and I guess gives himself over to the Force. Yeah. Submits to the Force.
In the same way, Luke. Yeah, Luke just kind of decides, okay, this is
like, I can be of no more help.
I finished.
At that point.
I've accomplished my purpose.
Because Yoda's already told him like she has everything she needs already, which is a whole great moment to think about, and just I'll mention in a minute. But yeah, so Luke just, I guess, decides he's done. So do you think we'll see Luke in the next movie as a Force ghost? Do you think he's still around, or is Mark Hamill out?
I don't think he's out. I think
that would be really sad.
I think he would come back, especially now that Carrie is gone.
Yes.
So I would hope he at least shows up for, just like Alec Guinness showed up in Return of the Jedi and explained some stuff.
I mean, from telling Ben's story and Snoke's story and Luke's story, we've kind of done everything around Rey. There's not that much extra to talk about with Rey, other than, she did all that stuff with Luke.
Well, now Rey has the responsibility of learning.
So when Rey left, Luke then went to go burn down the tree with the books in it.
Yeah.
And he's almost there, and then Yoda shows up and distracts him.
Yoda.
And then Yoda lights the tree on fire with like a snap of his finger.
Lightning strike,
and sets it on fire. And then he tells Luke she already has everything she needs. There's nothing else she can or you can do or whatever.
And
that's
so
because Yoda knows she already took the books, lit the tree on fire so that Luke didn't see the books were gone.
Yeah. So Luke wouldn't try to go after her. And
so Yoda totally screwing with Luke another time of being a wily little bastard.
Yeah.
Who's just like, she knows everything she needs, and like lights the tree on fire. And he's like, she has the books, you asshole.
Right.
Just totally hiding it from Luke because he doesn't need to know. And he knows she has the books, so she's totally set for at least learning something.
Yeah.
But I love the when I realized that moment, I was like, that son of a bitch, Yoda, you.
I didn't realize at the very end of the movie when they show the books again, it didn't click that, oh wait, Yoda lit that tree on fire where they were supposed to be. Like I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, Yoda was just playing.
He's just screwing
Luke,
with Luke.
just screwing with Luke again.
Yeah.
And if he had told Luke, he probably would have freaked out and not calmed down and did what he did at the end of the movie anyways.
Yeah. Right.
So she has the books, and then obviously there's a whole thing with her showing up at Snoke's on the Devastator, right? Devastator?
The Devastator?
Ooh, I think that's Snoke's ship.
Is it the that sounds like the Star Destroyer.
I can't. I'm blanking.
The Devastator was wasn't that Vader's Star Destroyer?
The Grumbler.
Oops. The Grumbler.
the flapper. Anyways, so she goes, eventually she's like, I have to go talk to Kylo. I can turn him. She goes to Snoke's ship. She, sees Kylo. She gets brought in.
Yeah,
Snoke's trying to turn her. She's resisting. So he's like, Kylo, kill her. And that's when Snoke dies. And they fight together. And there's a super badass lightsaber fight with some really cool stuff with lightsabers. Like when Rey drops her lightsaber and catches it with the other hand and then reverse grip, like slices the dude's legs.
Yeah, that was
And then
great.
she tosses the lightsaber to Kylo and he just like quick button presses right through his face. And then so, Rey does all that, and then they force fight over the lightsaber, snapping it in half.
Yeah.
And then she gets away after the fact, and gets back with the resistance with like the 12 people that are left over.
Yeah, which is crazy.
With a broken lightsaber, sitting talking with Leia.
Uh-huh.
I was wondering at that moment, were they setting up because, and we can talk about this in a minute too. Yeah. We saw Leia use the Force.
I was gonna say Leia needs to be the next thing we talk about.
We saw Leia using the Force, so we know she was at least somewhat trained with Luke. We assumed that anyways. She probably did some training with Luke. She obviously has the Force. Were they setting it up? And they said they didn't change anything with Leia's story in this movie. Were they setting it up for Rey to learn stuff from Leia?
I think so.
Were they setting it up for it to be this girl power thing, and not in a bad way? Don't get all.
No.
Don't get all like, all the heroes are females now. Trump. But it felt like they were setting it up for Leia to help her through this learning process.
Yeah.
And then I think that's probably one of the things they have to figure out now is like, how are we going to sort that situation out? And I wonder if that's been what's the trouble with 9's plot with rewriting.
I think Leia was definitely going to be. Well, obviously, she was going to be the rebuilder of the Resistance and this hero at the end.
We lost Holdo, and now Leia's dead too. So I think Poe is now in charge of the Resistance.
Yeah, but I mean,
so there's probably going to have to be a time jump at the beginning of 9.
Not only was she going to...
It's been 3 years.
Oh, there's definitely going to be a time jump.
There has to be.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to explain Leia's death in the crawl.
You think it would be in the crawl? We're already throwing out theories for something. 2.5 years away.
Because at the end of the movie, so that's Rey's story. She has a broken lightsaber. All the other stuff happened with Luke. She has the books.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to make her own lightsaber, which we discussed this. That shit's gonna sell like hotcakes.
Yeah.
There's gonna be the first girls lightsaber available.
Yeah.
And don't get pissy about that. But like, it's probably gonna be pink, or purple. I mean, Mace Windu had a purple lightsaber, but don't get all people who get so pissy about there being a girl. I don't understand because I think she's a badass.
Yeah.
But there's gonna be like this first lightsaber that is a girl's lightsaber, and the Rey stuff has already been selling like hotcakes to little girls, anyways, because there's finally like main girl characters in Star Wars for them to identify with.
Right.
So now there's gonna be a lightsaber. That shit's gonna go on fire. But anyways, there's gonna be a new lightsaber, which is awesome. So that's basically Rey's story. It's everyone else's story just intertwines with hers, and we've talked about theirs, so I don't think there's much to say there.
Yeah.
So then you've got Leia, who, somewhat near the beginning of the movie, she almost dies, turns into Space Superman.
So yeah, the Oh boy.
I think this is the part where both of us are. That is the one thing I came away from the movie wishing didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I think it was a little ridiculous.
She was on the bridge of their new Mon Calamari ship.
The Radis.
It was her and Akbar and a bunch of other command personnel.
Like Akbar got sucked into space.
Yeah.
A bunch of other people, including Leia, and she's like starting to freeze over, and her fingers wiggle, and then she like Thor flying through the sky holding Mjolnir, she's zipping herself back to the ship.
So not only does she
survive the vacuum of space,
yes, survives the vacuum of space, she unfreezes herself and like restores all her bodily functions, basically, and she flies.
I mean, so
I can't explain this one. It was
so the Force can protect you to some extent. I mean, I think especially stuff with like, I don't know, like Obi-Wan and his master's name, because now I'm blanking on it again.
Qui-Gon.
We just talked Jesus, about it. I'm broken. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, just put a rebreather in their mouth and like go diving super deep underwater into and Oreganga,
I guess,
because their heads probably would pop at the depth that's at, type of thing. So I think there's some explanation of the Force being able to protect you. I just thought that was a little ridiculous.
It was.
I think it would have been a cooler moment for it to like, show that wide shot out of everyone floating and like almost like pan in, and she's just like Force holding herself still within the hole. Right? Like I think that would be more believable if she was like using the Force to like stay within and not explode outwards and get sucked out, like almost like holding herself to not get sucked out type of thing.
Something like that.
I would have thought that would have been a little less ridiculous and more believable.
Or
like, look, she can use the Force. She's not flying through space.
Or even like make the scene more chaotic to where it's
like not just focusing on her.
Like the bridge gets half hit and people are being sucked out and all that junk or whatever. And she's like still in the bridge holding on and does something to where like uses the last of her energy to somehow protect herself and get herself back inside.
Throw a table in front of the hole or something.
And then just collapses, and then is out.
That's I think we both agree that that's like the one over the top. I'm still trying to reconcile.
I did not like that. I thought it was stupid. I thought it looked bad. First of all, like the CG was not great when she was flying. It looked weird.
It just looked weird because it was solely focused on her flying through space like Superman.
Yeah. It was maybe it's just one of those things where you see stuff in movies like in a Guardians movie, for example, where stuff that doesn't happen in real life is being recreated in CG. Mm-hmm. And it's like your brain can't relate with it, so it just looks bad.
Well, and again, it's we were just focused on that. There's not like anything else going on for that to happen within the context of. It's like we're not like, oh, there's shit flying around her while she's Force sucking herself back to the ship. It was just like everything is silent and here she is flying.
Just burp.
Yeah.
Yeah, Space Mary Poppins.
Yes, Mary Poppins, y'all. That's the one thing. Yeah, that's the one thing, and that's literally the one thing in the entire movie I did not like.
I'm sure if I watch it again, there'd be something else, but that's the only thing I can think of right now that I just can't be on board with that. That is that was just dumb.
We have to accept it because it happened, and it will always forever be there unless someone.
The idea that it was setting up was, like you said, Leia is a lot stronger in the Force now than she was before, which is great. That's fine. That could have been shown in a different way.
Any other way.
But whatever.
But that was one of the first theories or leaks or whatever, way, way, way back after The Force Awakens, that Leia was going to use the Force in the beginning of the movie in some fashion related to the Battle of Dakar.
Really?
That was like one of the first things I remember seeing someone saying, like, I heard from a whoever that Leia's going to use the Force type of thing. And that was like years ago.
I wonder if that was...
And so she definitely used the Force, but it wasn't still on... Like, we thought like maybe she was going to like throw rubble on Dakar to like get out of something or whatever. Not fly like a spaceman. But yeah, it was really interesting that actually took place after hearing 2 years ago a rumor that was going to happen.
And you know what else was weird? No one in the movie discussed this. No one in the movie talked about
her Force use,
or was like surprised. Yeah, like how did she survive?
Luke's her brother.
I'm saying,
and most of them have been around. I'm assuming back when Luke was still around, so they've probably seen her training or known she was training or used the Force at some capacity.
But still, even if they knew that, this is a crazy thing. She just revived herself from death or near death
and then
in a vacuum.
passed out for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
Basically, they put her in that tank.
Yeah.
And she was literally out for what, like maybe 6 or like, well, they were traveling for 18 hours. So she was probably out for 12.
It was most of it. She
Yeah.
was out for most of it. Yeah.
And then she wakes back up because I thought, all right, she's in a coma. So now they just have to figure out the story with her.
Yeah.
Coming, like she'll stay in a coma. And at the end, it'll be like, oh, Leia's still out or whatever. And so I feel like, all right, so now in 9, they just have to be like, you know, she never woke back up or never came back to type of thing. But then she was back for like another third of the movie, and I was like, oh shit, they gotta. Well, obviously, she's actually alive, and they have to figure out how she's gonna die now.
Yeah.
Which I definitely didn't.
I will say the end when Luke shows up, or Luke's projection shows up, that was a really good cathartic, like even the lines he was saying, which obviously they couldn't have predicted this was gonna happen, but the lines he was
basically saying goodbye.
Yeah, was very like, yeah, it could be seen as Luke saying goodbye, but also Luke saying goodbye to Leia.
Yes.
You know.
And so he
it was good.
So he did get to Leia. He was on Crate, like I said, and they did get to meet,
Yeah.
like we talked about, and I'm so glad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like they were setting up a lot more Leia stuff, which I think that's probably the problem with 9 is they're having to figure out, okay, now where do we go?
Right.
With that.
Right.
And I wonder if they kept saying we didn't change Leia's story. I wonder if they changed anything with Luke's story. With him with him dying. I wonder if they changed in 8. Like they said they didn't change anything with Leia's performance or story.
Yeah.
I wonder if they changed anything else because they never said they didn't change anything.
No.
And they didn't do any major reshoots, I don't think. I wonder if the Luke dying thing maybe wasn't going to happen.
No,
at some point.
I think it was because I think like we've seen Force Awakens was Han's movie. Luke was always supposed to be the focus of this movie, and he kind of ended his story with this movie. And then Leia was supposed to be the focus of 9. Which
I wonder. I mean, Luke did say "See you around, kid" to Kylo.
Did he?
Yeah, that was like his last line. It was like "See you around, kid" or whatever, like signing off, and then. Whoosh,
and they did he really say
that?
I didn't know that. I didn't.
Catch
that.
I wonder if we will see him again in some capacity. Now I'm pretty sure we will because we probably need him to teach Rey something or have some kind of something.
Yeah, I think he's gonna, especially now that Carrie's gone. I think he's gonna show up again. In 9.
Yeah, and then obviously that's all like the major plot line. I've heard a lot of people complain like we didn't need any of the Finn story. That didn't help anything. I don't agree. I thought that was an interesting story. They're like they could have done away with the whole Canto Bite thing and the cracker and
I love Canto Bite.
Showed up on the just figured out something else to get onto the ship.
I loved Canto Bite.
There's always been those little ancillary stories in
the B story.
Every movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got I love the asteroid scene with the Falcon and Han and Leia and all that, and there's a space worm.
Yeah.
And all that. That's an ancillary story that we didn't need to take place.
Right.
For the Luke story.
But that was great.
But it was great.
And also with this story, I felt like Finn kind of grew up to where if he hadn't have met Rose, he would still have been trying to get away from all this. He was
still trying to get away, and he got involved because he's like, "Oh, I know how I can help." But his entire motivation was, "I have to help, otherwise we won't be here when Rey gets back."
Yes.
He woke up saying, "Rey," and then his entire motivation was like, motivated. "I have to save these people because if we die, Rey will come back and be in trouble."
Yeah.
And it was all motivated by Rey. Yeah. Until the very end, where he's going to sacrifice himself because it's not for Rey anymore. It's for, he's like, we can, because he stands up in the behind that shield in that cave, and he's we can do something. We have these ships, like let's fight type of thing. And it wasn't for Rey at that point anymore. It was for the Resistance. It was like, these people need our help, need help.
Right.
And the galaxy needs our help type of thing. And so
then
he finally realized and grew up that it wasn't just for him and it wasn't just for Rey anymore.
It was for the bigger
picture. And then he totally is going to sacrifice himself. And I 100%,
I thought
150% thought, okay, he's going to die. I didn't see that coming, but yeah, he's dead. That's it. He's going to die.
But then, last
and then out of nowhere,
Rose
saves him, and then Rose dies. Right? She's dead.
No.
Was she dead?
No, she was on a medical stretcher.
Oh, she was on a medical stretcher. So she pulled a Finn.
Yeah, right. So now she's in Finn's place.
Now she's going to have the leaky tubes.
But then Finn learned the same lesson that Poe had to learn this whole movie, which was you can't, fly off the handle and be a in-your-face hero all the time. You have to think about.
And with like saying that with Poe, they set up Poe's story, especially now that Leia's not going to be around.
You can't
they
always
accurately set up the story of him understanding what leadership is about.
Yes,
not about
which I thought was
just
great.
Blowing things up, but there's something else at stake.
Yeah. You can't save the world by flying a ship. Always.
And again, that was very much the passing of the torch. Poe figured out how to lead. Finn's worried about more than just himself or Rey now, and then Rey is fighting for good. She's kind of figured out what this thing inside of her is.
Well, Rey has a purpose now. We didn't even talk about Rey. I guess we can. It's kind of at the end of the episode now. We can talk about it next
we talked about Rey, but didn't even mention her parents are nobody. Yeah. Hallelujah.
Right.
That was Kylo. People are still like, well, Kylo just told her that because that's what he wanted her to hear, so that she didn't know that whoever's whatever.
No.
And just deal with it. Yeah. She is nobody because the Broom Boy is nobody.
Right.
Like anyone.
That was the whole point of this movie.
Yes. Her parents were just trash. Junk people from Jakku, in an unmarked grave in a sand dune.
Right.
And for some reason, she has this force strength, just like the kid with the broom.
Now, I mean, we did do a lot of theorizing about, like, maybe Kylo was the person to drop her off. Maybe she had showed up
just like Broom Boy.
Totally temple,
nobody that just somewhat had an awakening of the force.
This makes sense.
And having included the fact that there is Broom Boy, that is just some kid on some planet with the force.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, he's actively using it, unlike her until she was pushed to use it.
Yeah.
He's just like, broom, time to sweep. Yep. And was like, not like, he wasn't like, holy shit, how'd I do that? He's obviously been doing that for a while now. And he just knows, well, I guess I have the force.
Or he doesn't know what it is, but he knows he has
maybe
these
doesn't know.
powers.
He just has this ability that he doesn't know anything about, but he's not as concerned as Rey because she didn't realize she had an ability until she was thrown into this situation that was like way beyond her means.
Right. Even when she went down,
I'm glad that she's nobody because anyone can have it.
Even when she went down to the mirror in the tunnel, which I thought was a little.
It's very weird.
It was a very weird,
but it was
very
surreal.
It
was that very like weird dark side, like trying to get you to question yourself,
surreal thing. Yeah, where she
just like when they went into just like in the temples with the younglings in like Clone Wars would go and get their crystals, and they had these weird visions.
Yeah,
and went through these weird like situations of like questioning themselves and their person and. And that was having her question herself because she was all alone again. Because she was all alone on Jakku, and she's all alone again in this weird prism.
Well, she asked the mirror to show her what she wanted to see, or that somebody said the mirror was going to show you what you want to see, and she asked to see who her parents were, right? Didn't she?
And it was just she was just there by herself.
Or did she say just show me what I want to see? I can't remember if she said show me my parents specifically or not. Do you remember?
I think.
Anyway,
something like that.
It was implied.
It was very much pointed
implied,
at her wanting to see who her parents were.
Right. It was implied that her parents were going to be shown to her, and then it was just
the exact line right now.
Then it was just her, which kind of reinforced, like your parents. Your parents are nobody.
Your parents don't. Yeah.
Your parents don't matter.
It doesn't have to be in your blood.
You're all alone.
Don't. Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas people were always like, it's the Skywalker story and it's hereditary, and it's not, because that's been explained in other stuff already. So I don't know why you're still holding on to this. You just don't pay enough attention.
Yeah. Something we didn't talk about was, when you mentioned the Skywalker thing, Snoke was super Vader obsessed.
Yes, because he thought because Kylo was the Skywalker blood and Vader line that he would be the only one that could stop the Last Jedi.
Yes.
I don't know why Snoke didn't do it himself. Snoke was always like, you are of Skywalker blood, and like you are going to be the one to help me bring down the Last Jedi.
Maybe Snoke was scared of Luke.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe.
But yeah, so it doesn't.
There's
the
a lot of
Skywalker line was a big deal because they brought around this huge galactic change because of Vader.
Yeah.
And because, of Luke stopping the Emperor. So obviously they're they have it in their blood.
Yeah.
They have a greater aptitude in their blood because of them, because of midichlorians, whether you like it or not.
Right.
You either you have more and you have more aptitude to it, or you have less, but you still have ability to use the Force.
Yeah. Yeah.
Broom Boy has more midichlorians, I'm sure, because he has an aptitude to use the Force, just like Rey. But the Skywalker bloodline definitely has a heightened one because Kylo and Luke and Anakin and Leia and everything. But that's not the important thing. But for some reason, Snoke thought because you have that bloodline and are strong, you're the only one that can fight Luke because he's just as or more strong.
Yeah.
Which he's super obsessed. So obviously he knew.
Although I thought
so Snoke knew the whole Vader situation, but Vader was dead by the time they went to the unknown regions.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those legend things again that Snoke heard about.
Where was Snoke? What has he seen? What does he know? How was he
Right.
involved?
Right.
How long has he been watching?
Yeah.
Waiting for his
It
moment.
seemed like to me it was more about Snoke just resurrecting. It was just the resurrecting Vader. Just that fact. Like he just wanted to
trying
resurrect
to
a
have
Vader.
another Vader.
Like he had been obsessed with Vader, similar to how Kylo was.
Somewhat, yeah.
Anyway. I don't know. We need more.
There's definitely going to be stories there.
I need more about that, dude.
Yeah, we'll definitely get stories about Snoke, and I would say Luke's temple and his whole deal was beforehand.
Right.
The fact that Luke is gone and the fact that Snoke is gone, we now know 100% they can tell us those stories anytime they want.
Yeah.
Because they don't affect going forward.
Yes.
Because we know what we need to know up to this point.
Yes.
So all of that backstory is now, I would say, open game for us for books. If maybe they could already be in the process and we don't even know about them.
Unless they're trying
within
to
the next 2 years, within the next year, I would say we would have a book about both of those things.
Well, unless they're trying to save all of that for something that's going to be revealed in 9. Which I
don't think not Snoke's story.
Which, well, they already have the story figured out for 9. So I think in a year,
ish. JJ just pitched it.
Yes. I think they already have the basic story figured out.
Yeah.
For what's going to happen in 9. But I'd say give it a year, like you're saying. If something is going to happen, it'll happen by then.
If we get a book within the next year, not this summer, not this upcoming, not summer 2018. Yeah. I would say by summer 2019 before the movie comes out in 2019.
Right.
Or fall of 2018, like winter or something. Yeah. I don't think we're going to get that story in 2018 unless it's late 2018.
Yes. I agree.
Something announced by summer and then book comes out in the fall or spring.
9 comes out in 2019 or 2020?
2019, because we're going to have a year and a half after Solo.
Right.
But then 5 months between this and Solo.
Right. All right.
So if there's not a story, then there's probably more to tell in the movie, but I really highly doubt that. I really think we'll have books about that stuff within the next 2 years.
I guess we'll see. Yeah. There's a lot of little things we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about, like you said, Finn and Rose's story. There's some stuff with Rey we left out.
It's a good and enjoyable story, but there's nothing else we need to know. I mean, obviously, I enjoyed that story, but as far as us being all I want the lore and the canon and all that, because we want to know all the story that we can be told.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no more story to Finn and Rose's story than what we saw.
Right.
Right. Other than I wonder if DJ is going to come back at any point.
I kind of liked his character. I hope.
I wonder if we will see him again, because he just kind of pieced out and was like, that's how this business works. Sorry, kid. I wonder if we'll see him again as the Han Solo-esque character helping them once more in another situation.
Maybe. I kind of like.
I could see that happening. Phasma fell into an explosion, but we don't know she's dead.
I'm telling you, she's the new Boba Fett of the series. But
is she going to keep showing up?
Well, Boba Fett didn't, but everyone says that he's still alive. So,
in the new canon, his armor made it out somehow.
Yeah.
Her helmet got damaged, and that shit is made out of the Emperor's ship.
Yeah.
Her armor is made out of if you haven't read the Phasma book, read it now because it's fantastic. Her armor is made out of the Emperor's ship's hull. Like, as you saw, Rose shot her with a blaster, and it
deflecting.
Just bounced off.
Right.
Because it's made out of starship armor.
Whole armor,
basically.
Yeah. Right.
And her helmet got, got busted up, but her armor was still fine otherwise, and she fell into a bunch of fire, but who's to say she's dead?
I mean, that ship didn't blow up. At the end of
that was the coolest shot of that movie.
It was.
That was the coolest shot of any movie I've seen this year. Of Holdo blasting, just slicing through the entire that First Order fleet and just ripping,
just a wave of hyperspace.
That delay. It's like when a super sharp sword cuts something, and it's just that second, and then it slides apart.
Yeah.
It's just she blasted, and then it was just down the line.
That was so cool.
And that's how hyperspeed things
should work.
At close range should work, like we've been complaining about from Force Awakens.
Because if Han Solo be able to launch into
jumped to hyperspace to light speed from within that hangar on that ship with the Rathtar around him, that ship that he jumped away from
was fine.
We assume, I guess.
It was fine because it showed the guy who was on the radio after the Falcon jumped out.
That ship should have been blasted to bits and ripped apart. Like Holdo, just threading like straight through everyone.
Yeah.
Just turning everything to dust herself, and then, cutting through those ships. And then it was just like basically everything was dead in the water at that point. But yeah, the
ship did not.
The ship was
blow
not
up technically.
The ship was. It was like a lightsaber cutting through something. It was just that section was like cauterized.
That wing cut off. Yeah,
it was like cauterized as it went through like a lightsaber, and the ship was still there.
So
Phasma fell into an explosion, but
just like she went into a trash compactor, but then showed up again. Like she could still be alive.
She very well could be.
I mean, Hux got out. Right, Kylo got out. Obviously,
yeah, they were all in crate. Yeah, Hux is a bitch. That's
he's the slimiest dude.
That's just the story of Hux, is that he is a bitch and will bow to anyone that can be stronger than him.
Yeah,
if whoever's the bigger bully.
Yep.
He tries to bully them. If they bully back, he gives up.
Right,
instantly.
Instantly.
Which, if you read any of the books, just like his dad was totally just the wimp and like acted big and haughty, but if anyone stronger was there, he was just a
read the Phasma book, because that's all in the Phasma book, and it's fantastic.
Which I think the Phasma book, even though there was so little of Phasma in the movie, I think just having read the Phasma book and seeing her response to Finn and being a traitor and leaving his people,
it all makes sense.
Like it made her character more of a character.
Yeah,
just even though she wasn't in that much.
Right.
I was like, I
feel you.
There's feelings behind that, not just like robot lady,
Right.
Anyways,
we got to wrap this up. We can finish next episode. Next episode, we'll have seen it again, hopefully.
Yeah, I plan
we have a couple weeks in between, so hopefully we'll be able to see it at least once more.
Yeah, so, our next episode will come out Christmas Day.
It's not going to. It'll be delayed. We'll probably delay it, or
are we going to take a Christmas break before we come back?
Yeah. Or we're just deciding all of this now.
We will figure out if there's a Christmas break or not.
We'll figure this.
If you don't hear from us again, we're probably dead.
Maybe we'll release a little mini episode
with everything going on, just like you with your lives. There will probably be a Christmas break. Give us a chance to see the movie again. In the new year, we'll come back. We will have some more focused thoughts on the tiddly bits in the film, and go from there. So everyone have a wonderful holiday.
Leave us a review.
Yes.
While you're eating Christmas dinner. Is that what people
go
do?
on iTunes and review The Last Jedi on our page with 5 stars. Just pretend it's another site. No, go to iTunes and please leave us a review of as many stars as you deem appropriate. Mostly 5, please, because there's only one that's not a 5, and that guy should change it.
Leave us mostly 5.
You can obviously always reach us on Twitter at Hokey_religion. You can reach us on Facebook, Facebook.com/HokeyReligion. You can find us on YouTube to watch the sounds because it's just an audio podcast there. But if you want to see us looking like a bunch of dummies while recording the show, you can go to patreon.com/HokeyReligion. And for as little as $1 a month, you will have access to the live streams that we record when we make these episodes, and you can watch us look stupid and forget things. There's other tiers there, $2.50 a month, and you can get a Hokey Religion sticker, and then so on from there. So go check that out at patreon.com/HokeyReligion. Or you can just straight up email us at asklobot@hokeyreligion.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it.
That's it.
Go see The Last Jedi 5 times before you start to judge it, because one viewing with super emotions coming out of it is not the time to start judging a film. You need to give it time to sink in and think about it.
That's been Hokey Religion.
That's Hokey Religion. This is Tyler.
This is Michael.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hokey religion is an ancient word. Hokey religion is an ancient weapon for no match for a good blaster at your side.